Hello and welcome to Flory Models. Here we are with you with another vintage kit review. Today we've got Monogram's massive, let's face it, 148 scale B-29 Superfortress. Now this Ilba kit has been around for some time, like a lot of these ones we do in the vintage series. So this one was first released in 1977. So it is a few years old now, but actually it's the only one. Nobody's ever done another 148 scale B-29. And by the end of this review, you'll know why, because this thing is absolute monster. It's colossal. It was reboxed a couple of times as well. Hasegawa did some things at it, and it's still available today. Luckily, this is one of those kits that keeps living. So Revell actually released this 2 years ago. Has got some new parts in there. I'm not sure what they have got, but essentially it is the same kit. So what we've got down in here, as you can see, is beautiful box art. So we've got Lucky 11 down in here as well. There is different box arts with this one right the way through over the years. It's been brought out, it came back out in the 80s, it was out in the 90s, then it was obviously with Hasegawa in the early 90s as well. They did 3 or 4 boxings of it right the way through. Monogram did a couple more boxings of it in the mid 90s, and then again it was one of those ones when Revell USA, they reboxed it 2004. Then Monogram did another version in 2015, it's saying here. And then obviously in 2020. So God knows whose kit it actually is at the end of the day. But as you can see, lovely box art on there. To be honest, I'm not going to show you around the box because there's not a great deal to sort of see on this, you can see, because it's just so big. It's very difficult to show you. But it has got some inbuilt box bits down in here, you can see, but as you say, the box is, to be honest, a little bit tatty. So in here, get the lid off, you can see we are greeted by, I'll get that to balance, it's going to balance, it is. We've got quite a sturdy box. It's got a little brace across it as well, so we'll whip that out of the way, and then we are greeted by this huge lump. All right, we've got the instructions down in here, and I think what we'll do is we'll take each part out of the box and we'll work at it somewhat separately. So instructions themselves are typical old school Monogram, and it is this bigger way. I don't know if we can, perhaps we'll somewhere in between, because it's so big I need a wider camera angle to sort of show it all. But as you can see, step 1 is over here. And it's showing you basically going down and doing the nose bay wheel well, and then up to the top onto the flight deck, all the stations being added on this, and as you can see it sort of goes across, so it's basically just working your way right the way through. There's loads of detail, all the compartments are done. You've got the tube, so the pressurized front and rear sections again, so the unpressurized middle bits, you've got the little tube to crawl down to go through. We do get bomb bays as well, so I think you get quite a few of these, so we've got 6 on each side for that particular one. All the bulkheads, pressure heads, the rear parts with the sleeping compartment and the various pieces like that. But then we've got the tail section, again, all bulkhead up, and we've got obviously the various bits down in here. Huge great wing spar, which is really nice because let's face it, it needs it. And then as you can see, it's talking about putting the 2 halves together. Then you've got details for the wing section going down in there, and obviously doing the actual engine parts with the gear, putting all of those in, and then your bomb load going down in there, bomb bay doors going on, and obviously the bits for those, tail gun system being fitted down onto this one, and then all the turrets. So as you say, it's got the electronic turrets on this one, so obviously top and underside being done down in there, front and rear section, the glass work being put on or off, so if you wanted to, you could open up one of the glass panels to have it open, where you've got your little crew figure hanging out of it, so you can do that one as well. And then in case it's time to get the actual wings onto it, for these huge great wing spars, engine props, cowlings, things like that being fitted to the front, and then obviously you've got all the aerials going there on the back. Decor call out wise, as you say, it's pretty straightforward. And actually there isn't a ton on these ones, but again, aftermarket wise, I think is probably going to be your friend, unless you've got the later reboxings, perhaps from the sort of, 2015, 2021. The rest of them, I think the decals are probably going to be a little bit eaten up. But again, there is other options out there. So again, you've got your colour call-outs and all your bits in there, just like that. Good start. Right, okay. Jenga, trying to get the instructions back together. Right, something like that. There we go. Right, let's have a look at some of these. So I'm going to have to take them sort of out in their positions so you can somewhat see. So again, usually we've had some of these classic kits, we've got some of the parts are coming off, but we'll have a proper look at those in a moment. Generally really nice. We have got some flash, and again, this is the old version of this, so we can't blame it on an old mold, and we have got some parts sort of missing. So again, don't just be careful with your boxes. Again, there's lots of bits in the bottom of that box I've noticed already. All right, but again, really nice detail. If we switch over to a little bit of the close-up, you can see we've got the tube, so that's all nicely done. We've got these engines, and again, we've got that sort of nicely embossed details down onto these ones. The engine cowlings, got a little bit of flash on them, but generally very nice indeed. And again, it's recessed panel line all around that, so that's really nice on here. We've got the bombs moved down a little bit. We've got some of these turret areas, things like that as well. And again, we've got a bunk, and you've even got sort of a pillow on there and a little bit of bedding. We've got over here, you've got your gear running down in here, and again, the detail is all there. We've got that prop, and yeah, we have got some sink marks on these. So some of the older kits we've been looking at recently haven't had it, but these have. Then we've actually got the areas, so we've got this sort of fabric effect down in here, and again, this is raised detail right the way over the surface of the kit. But again, Monogram are really, really good. It's very, very fine. So again, it doesn't mean you have to sort of, you know, go around and rescribe everything. You could use what it's got actually on there. On the blind side to it, as you can probably see, not too bad at all. You've got nice structure, good areas. And again, you've got little things like just down in here, got a little bit of mold issue just down in. So this needs to be cleaned up to get a nice clean. And again, it's something that we've said with these, test fitting and dry fitting with all of the older kits should be mandatory. It will save you so much time. Trust me, I know. Having built some older kits recently, it's one of those things. You just take your time and understand why things aren't going together. If they're not going together, there's usually a good reason, and you can sort of work that out, all right? So down in here, we've got another match one, exactly the same. So that's a twin pair for there, as you can see. So that's exactly the same again. We do get some figures, and we've got the tyres and the bits and pieces down in here, and we have got a tall boy or fat man down on this one, so that's very nice indeed. And then again, if we go down here, we've got some crew, and again, they're in the box as well, rattling round, but we've got the different bombs down in there. So there we have those. We've got these are oxygen tanks down in here. Lots of the details for the cockpit. So again, we've got very nice raised detail. So again, you could probably do a lot of that by hand. It's really nice. Dry brushing to bring up those bezels, and then obviously adding colour where is needed. And again, we've got the wheels and tyres, all looking very, very nice indeed. And even on the blind side, oh, more crew falling off. So yeah, even on the blind side, actually, that's not looking too bad at all on there. So we've got that one. Okay, let's do the bit you all guys want to see, and then perhaps we can move some of the camera in. So to give you an idea of the length of this thing, this cutting mat is basically 60 centimetres edge to edge. So it's just over that. All right, so you're going to be looking at around about 60 and a few centimetres. All right, so it's really, really nice. Looking at it on the close-up, you can see surface detail is very nice indeed. Again, really sharp, clean, very, very crisp panel lines. You do have, obviously, all of this sink marks down in here, but again, you'll often hear me say it, I would work with it instead of it against it, and I would call that stress skin effect, and I would actually leave it in there and play with it with the weathering, because I don't think it's one of those things going to be an easy fix. So, and again, that huge tail, that huge rudder on the back, and you can see some of these details. And again, we've got raised riveting down in here on this access port, if you can see it. And again, one of the highlights is down on the inside. So you have got some larger ejector pins down in here, but they're quite faint. But hopefully the way that the bulkheads and things work, they won't be in the way. But you have got all the formers, and that's unfortunately what is causing the sink marks right the way through it. But generally, pretty good. Got some nice detail in there. And again, this thing is, let's face it, it's a monster. So it's going to be a big old lump. So go into this one eyes wide open. On a scale point of view, it's pretty much on par with my B-52 that we did of late. So yeah, it's huge. It's big, big, big. So again, fuselage section. And then as we can see just down in here, we've got the other side. And again, we've got these bulkheads for the pressure base and all these things up here. We've got the beds for down on the tail. So again, we've got some really very nice details. And again, nice detail on this cockpit or flight deck floor with the various areas on there. We've got some leading edges of the wings, I think they are, fuel tanks. and Bombay doors. Flip it over on the other side, and again, something I love about these is the detail on the inside. You have got ejector pins in here, but you know, you can just get in there with a mini drill and take care of those. But as you can see, some very nice details right the way through. And to be honest with you, it's not too bad at all. Again, no real massive amounts of flash on here. The sprue parts have got them, but they're not on the parts. So again, should be pretty darn good with that one. The next huge section will have to be a wing. So again, huge, huge, huge. So the wings on this are around about 41 centimetres on their own. That's each one. So again, really very nice detail. And if we start on the top, you can see, not too bad. A lot of this isn't sink marks like here. This is just the webbing with the cooling of the actual plastic when it's injected in. And again, really nice surface detail. Unfortunately, I say, being an older kit, it has got a few scuffs on it, but to be honest, they're not actually in there. Again, really nice fabric type effect on those. Some of the details on the inside. So we've got that huge wing spar here running down. Some of the other parts down in the middle for the midsection. And then we've got the underside of the wing. And again, really nice all the way through. Some nice details on the end there as well. So again, it's huge. It's a big, big lump, this particular thing. Okay, then we've got lots of parts rolling around the bottom. Next one, pretty much a match pair to the other side, but obviously we've got some differences down in the middle. So we just have a look at those. So we've got actuators, some of the guns, a couple of the lumps and bumps and things like that as well. Some of the bulkheads there. And again, looking all pretty nice. And there's the other wing, looking down nice all the way through. Yeah, got a little bit of flash on that one. But again, these here, they look like there's something going on, but there's not. It's just literally a little bit more shiny, just where it's cooling in the actual mould. So very nice indeed with that. Then we've got a box full of bits. So the decals, which we were saying before, you're not going to use because no amount of daylight is ever going to help that come back. Although the decals are from 19... Oh, I'm using magnifiers, I can't read it. 1989. So obviously this is a later boxing of it. It's the original box art for the original one. But yeah, so there we go. That just shows there. All right, then down in here, let's say clear parts, have a look. We've got various little bits down in here. We've got some of the wheels, we've got some of the crew. So we've got a little mechanic down in here, which is a nice touch. We've got another crew standing. Again, another nice touch. And we've got this guy who's waving, I think. So again, we've got some bits and pieces down in here. As I said, always keep all your box bits. As I say, if you have, get a giant freezer bag. With these older kits, I would say go through them when you first get them. Check you got all the parts, because there's nothing more irritating when you're halfway through the build and suddenly you realise you're quite an important part missing. And you either got to scratch build it or try and find one. And again, when you're dealing with kits of this age, finding them is pretty remote. So you might be down the scratch building route to get there. But as long as you've got the bigger bits, as you say, it's not so much of a problem. Little things that you can get away with. But yeah, check them. Once you're happy it's all there, bag it. Put it in a big old zip bag, and then you know you've got it and you're good to go there. Last up, we've got the clear parts. So again, we've got the nose. And if anyone's a Star Wars fan, you'll know where this inspiration came for the actual Millennium Falcon. Was taken from this aircraft. So yeah, some nice stuff down in there as well. And obviously that nose down in there with the bomb aimer's position. But all the clear parts, like we said before, Monogram's clear parts actually are pretty darn good. And again, you've got really nice, sharp, crisp edges. So for masking this up, although I do recommend a mask set, God, I hope there is one for it. But if there's not, to do it, it's squares and stuff. So it's pretty straightforward. So that shouldn't really be a problem. There you have it. It is a monster, isn't it? It's absolutely huge, this thing. Again, I'm not building this because somebody opened their mouth and said, I'll build it. And that's our Nathan on the team. So he's decided he's going to build this and we can't wait to make him do it. Because you know us, we like to see people struggle and squirm. I don't think the build itself is going to be a problem. It looks to be all there. But again, like we said, with a lot of these vintage kits we're doing reviews of these days, is that you just need to take a step back. This isn't Tamiya. You know, this isn't the AAA manufacturers out there. You are going to need a few of the old school stuff. So test fitting or dry fitting. So make sure you test all the parts go together before you commit to glue. If you do that, you can understand a lot what's going on. There's nothing worse if you put glue in and you've got to try and prise it apart, you're going to make a mess. So every time you put any two bits together, before you come along with the glue, just make sure it all goes together. Fuselage half will be a classic for this one. So what you want to do is make sure that it all goes in as a dry fit. Make sure it's all good. If it's not, work out. You're only going to need one bulkhead or something that's poking a little bit out or a little bit you haven't cleaned up correctly, and it's going to give you a huge seam line to deal with. So if you can make sure that those are out of the way before you commit to glue, that will save you a lot of time. The rest of it, though, is lovely. The panel lining, although it's raised, is very, very sharp, very, very crisp. If you're doing it in some of these metal colours, I think it'll be a lot easier because you can just come along and almost dry brush oils into them, and you'll get a really nice weathered effect with that. And that's something I'm doing shortly with the Voodoo that I'm working on. And again, if you're going to be doing something the other way and you're going to be doing something in the more camo colours of these ones and things, then obviously there's other options out there for doing post shading to give that effect. But if you wanted to, rescribing, again, really nice flat wings. They're easy to do. The fuselage, they're just straightforward curves and things, so that would be quite easy to do as well. So if you did want to rescribe it, then absolutely go for it yourself. I said before, this kit, strangely, is still available. So if you can pick up the Revell boxing of it, that one is out. It is listed as having new parts. Now, I don't know what those new parts are, but it can only be an improvement over the original version. But again, it is the one and only, which makes these kits absolutely fantastic. And obviously this is one of those kits that we all probably saw as kids and things like that and always fancied building, but let's face it, it's too expensive and way too big. But if you have got the money now and you have certainly got the room for it, now's the time to do it.